Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the webinar. We're just going to give everyone a few more minutes to join, and then we're going to get started in just a couple of moments' time.
Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to our webinar on how to avoid 7 common mistakes when implementing ITSM. Just a couple of housekeeping items real quick. This is a non-interactive webinar, so if you do have any questions, please post them in the GoToMeeting applet and we will address them towards the end of the webinar. This is also going to be recorded and will be available on our Team Saracen Vimeo site, and hopefully today, if not in the next day or so. So we'll get started real quick. Just a quick introduction. I'm Emma Roper. I'm the EMEA Territory Manager for Saracen, and we have Jeff Ross, who will be presenting the main part of our webinar today, and we will also have Paul Reed and James Attons from our EMEA sales and pre-sales team joining. Jeff, could you move the screen, please? Thank you. So I just wanted to go over a couple of things very quickly around Saracen. So I joined Saracen back in January this year, and these are some of the reasons why I joined such a prestigious company. We've got 1,200 customers over the globe. We're located in 65 countries. We have 43,000 plus consulting hours delivered, and we're very proud of our renewal rate, which is currently sitting at 99%. When I did my due diligence, however, I didn't just take Saracen's word for it. You can see some of the accolades on this screen from various independent organisations who also agreed that Saracen was best of breed in service management. And when we look at some of our customer spread, Jeff, if you wouldn't mind moving on. We're not just in one specific vertical. Service management affects all types of organizations. And as you can see, some of the customers that we have across the globe are testament to the things that we can do, and are very happy to talk to any of our new clients around our technology and how they've implemented it. With that, I'm going to hand over to Jeff so that he can talk you through these 7 common mistakes that are made when implementing ITSM. So over to you, Jeff.
Great. Thank you, Emma. So I just add my welcome. Hello, everyone. Great to have you joining us this morning. My name's Jeff Ross. I'm a consultant with Saracen, as Emma said. I've been with Saracen for 2.5 years now, and my job involves working with lots of our customers to implement our products, and that can be on a very kind of technical side of things, actually get them configured and installed and customized. But also I work a lot with our customers on their processes. And obviously ITIL process is a big part of, ITSM process is a big part of what we do. Many of us at Saracen are ITIL certified. It's such a big part of what we do, what we're about. So we want to make sure we know what we're talking about, and we can understand the real life challenges as well. Before I worked at Saracen, I worked for a large construction company, a customer of Saracen, and obviously a consumer of IT. So I also, as well as understanding ITIL, I do also have a good understanding of what it's like when the real world catches up with us. ITIL is a framework, it's not a kind of recipe. So we need to know when and when not to apply certain bits of it, because nothing is as perfect as those kind of frameworks wish it could be, and we wish it could be as well sometimes. So it's going to start off by looking at what is service management. All of us work in different organizations, different industries, but we're all consumers of IT as individuals and as businesses and organizations. We can't just ignore it. We can't get by without it anymore. IT service management is that magic combination of people, process, and technology, and getting kind of all three aligned and working together to provide value for the business. In most cases, IT doesn't generate any revenue for a business unless that is your business. In most cases, it's a back office support function, and it's only it's spending money. So we have to make sure that we are providing some value back to the business to justify that cost. Otherwise, we'll all be out of a job fairly rapidly, I'd have thought. So yeah, I already mentioned ITIL. A lot of what we're going to talk about today is all based upon ITIL framework. If that's not something you are familiar with, then I do recommend you look into that. If you do work in ITSM, it's going to be something that's going to be very valuable for you to investigate and understand. And everything, as I say, today I'm going to cover is all kind of within inside that framework. So let's get started with the first of our 7 common mistakes. And the first thing is to be about your business. So that's all about understanding that, I say unless your business is IT, most of us, IT is just that support function. We need to make sure that we're providing that right level of support to the business that's bringing that value, and not just doing what we think in IT is best. So it's really about making sure that your IT strategy is aligned with your business strategy, and they're not conflicting with each other, they're not working against each other, but they're working together to kind of bring that value. In terms of ITIL, there's a role in the ITIL framework called a business relationship manager, which is really about doing that, make sure that those two strategies align, being that liaison between what IT are doing, what the business is doing as a whole, and making sure that they're not conflicting. Now, not all of us are in the luxury of a large enough organization to be able to appoint, a single person to that role as a job. but it's something that you need to make sure that somebody is doing. Typically, it would be the IT manager would take care of that. If there's no one dedicated towards it, but as long as someone's doing that, somebody's looking after that kind of bigger picture of the business, then you're going to, start in a great place. And that's key when we're starting to plan our ITSM strategy, making sure that we are delivering what the business needs, first of all, and then maybe as a luxury, what the business wants, but not what IT want, not what IT think is best, not what IT think the business should have. All right, second thing is to know thyself, and that's to understand what it is actually that you do as an organization with regards to IT. Often when I first work with a new customer, a new organization, I'll ask them, what is it that you actually do? What services do you provide as IT? And rarely do they know as a whole, as a group of IT, do they know that whole set. Different people will have their own ideas. Different people have their own kind of areas of technical specialism, but also enthusiasm of what they're particularly interested in. And very commonly, no one person, not even the IT manager, can pull out from somewhere or know the full list of things that are provided. So it's very important to kind of make sure before you start your ITSM implementation that you make sure you actually understand what is it that we actually are providing today. Not what do we want to provide, we'll come to that later. Not what do we think the business needs, because we've covered that already, but what actually right now do we provide. Actually, just a kind of practical way to get there is to pull out from whatever system you're using, even if it is an Excel sheet, a list of your current tickets, incidents, work items, whatever you call them, and or service requests and other types of ticket under the ITIL framework. Put out a list of those and start to try and categorize those. Now, if you've got properties like category, that's going to help you a lot. If you haven't, then you're going to need to obviously try and look at those and categorize them. But by looking at that list, you're going to understand what actually are the things that you provide. And obviously by looking at the quantities, you're going to see which the things that are more commonly you're providing. So I'm just going to say I'm unable to keep an eye on the question panel very easily whilst I'm talking. So if you do have questions as we're going, please put them in the question panel. Emma will keep an eye on that, and if something comes in, she can shout out and we'll take it. If it's relevant to what I'm saying, I'll definitely take it. If it's not so much, then we'll come to at the end. We will make sure we get all your questions answered. But yeah, do please put them in the question box as you go. All right, let's move on to our third area, which we've called Take the Long View. This is all about trying to see a slightly bigger picture before you start down this route. So, often the ITSM implementation is dealt with by the kind of frontline part of IT. So whether you call that a service desk, a help desk, whatever, it's that kind of first front line of IT. They're typically the owners of the actual technology, the solution, and they tend to be the ones that actually, own the project of implementing the solution. But it's very important that you don't let those group of people just think about themselves and their needs and their requirements when they're building this out. The whole kind of setup of the system, or the categories and groups of people, if they kind of plan all that based around only their own little world, then it's not going to fit the rest of the department. And IT service management is not just about the service desk. Everyone in IT is ultimately providing those services to the business, whether they're on the front line fixing incidents and troubleshooting, or they're sort of looking after back-end systems and databases. Ultimately, everyone is part of that overall responsibility to provide those services, and therefore ITSM is everyone's business. And the system has to be set up to incorporate all of those things. If you just get set up for one team and then they'll be up and running nice and quickly, which would be great. But as soon as you then try and rework it to bring in another set of people, all of a sudden that becomes a lot more work as you kind of shoehorn them in, rather than if you design it properly at the beginning to allow for that, then it's going to be a lot more efficient and therefore cost less money as you go forward. And just opportunities to mention as well that, you know, we see a lot of our customers personally, excuse me, we're seeing a lot of our customers starting to use their ITSM technology for other departments in the business, because other departments are providing services, other service departments, and they also need some sort of technology to help them do that. So their processes may be very different, but ultimately they need a system where they can track tickets or cases or whatever they want to call them into a system. And often we see that because, you know, IT department will have experience in that area because they've been doing ITSM for a while, they'll have technology in place. Often we see that those other departments will then jump on the back of what IT are doing. It's good for the business to do this because you can, you know, save a lot of money rather than two departments running two systems that do similar functions. You can obviously save costs by incorporating that into one. As a business as a whole, you know, you're saving money there. As IT, if you kind of have separate budgets and internal charging, you can maybe charge those other departments to use your system. So it's a way of making some revenue for the IT department if your business operates in that way. So it's good for the kind of business as a whole in that sense. And it's also really good for the whole service experience for end users because it can improve efficiency between departments. And how often is it the case that we get issues raised to the wrong whole department, let alone the wrong area of IT, but the wrong whole department? You know, someone's contacting HR because they can't book a holiday on the online holiday system. And it's actually because their Wi-Fi is broken or turned off and they just can't get to the website. Or vice versa, someone's calling IT because they can't access their online paycheck, and it's because they've not been set up properly in the payroll system or whatever. So there's loads of examples where, you know, the wrong people get contacted. It's really common. And if we've got separate tools, we need to basically either just tell the user, I can't help you, and then throw them back out into the wild, which is a very bad end user experience, or we spend time having to manually recreate a ticket, a case in the other system for them, transferring data. If you're using just one shared tool, we can be really efficient just by reassigning those work items to the relevant departments through support groups or assigned to groups. So it can bring a lot of value to your end user as they kind of see a seamless experience, regardless of who they need to contact. Okay, so don't drink from the fire hose. Pretty sound advice for life in general. This is all about just, you know, you've got to take it as a phased approach. Often I work with customers who are really excited about, you know, self-service catalog and automation and those kind of concepts that really build that great user experience. And people get very excited about that sort of thing. They see that there's value there. They see there's cost savings there, which ticks all those boxes for management. And they want to kind of just do everything in one go. And they give themselves a go live date of, you know, 6 months away. And they include all this stuff they want to put in there, all this self-service, all this automation. all these services, and quite often it's services that they don't offer currently. They're trying to add more services to their catalog in time for the go live, and it's just building so much stuff to do, and it doesn't really make life easier for anyone. The end users don't even know those services exist. They're not expecting them, so it's not really improving their experience. And from an IT point of view, you're just trying to get too much done in a short space of time, and you'll end up compromising on something. Your go live will slip, or the quality of the work will be poor, or you'll put all your resources onto that to meet your go live, and then you'll be pulling resources off other systems that will also suffer in the long run as well. You've got to kind of take it as a phased approach. Automation is fantastic. Automation will save you a lot of time and bring so much efficiency and quality and all those great things that come with it. But your end user, from your end user point of view, it should be seamless. You can offer a service today that's manually fulfilled and then add in the automation later. And they shouldn't see any difference on their end, except obviously they'll see it done quicker and hopefully better. But in terms of the process they go through, nothing needs to change. So you can add that in later as you go, and you can even automate just piece at a time. Automate the quick wins, things that are going to bring you a lot of value from less input first, and then work your way up. You don't want to automate a task that takes 5 minutes to do manually and only gets done twice a year. It's going to take a very long time to get a return on that. Automate the stuff that you do all the time that takes a long amount of time, and it's laborious and it's difficult and there's risk. That's the stuff you want to automate first. So I've got some examples here to show you. So this could be an example. This is in the Cyrus self-service portal. This could be an example of how your catalog could look when you go live. Very simple, 2 offerings there. And then over time you can build up more things, and then again build it out further and further, so you've got all these different offerings. And you can just build as you go, add more. Users will not miss what they don't know about, what they don't know exists. All right, point number 5 is to not work in a vacuum. So, again, this is all about not remembering that IT isn't there to serve their own purposes. IT is there to serve the business as a whole. If you're looking at building out your service catalog as part of your ITSM process, the common mistake is to look at that through your IT lens, to think of with your, IT is the whole world area. So you've got to take that time to work with the business to understand what you can do for them, what value you can bring to them through the services you're offering. If a service is not providing value or not providing enough value to justify the cost, then you shouldn't be offering it. And that can't be a decision that you take by yourselves in IT. That's something you've got to work with your organization to understand together, to understand those costs, understand the value, and then you can make those decisions going forward. That's not the sort of thing you can just do yourself in IT. And that goes from kind of big things, which large systems are we going to use for our enterprise management, which financial purchasing solutions are we going to use, all those kind of big applications that you need to work with your business, all the way down to smaller things such as, what model of phone are you going to provide to your users, or what models of phone. Don't just assume you know what users want. Don't assume you know what will bring the most value to your business. Work with the organization, work with managers, understand what they need for their teams, what they need to get the most out of their people, and then that's going to help then the business as a whole get more value out of IT. And that's what we're trying to achieve in IT, is trying to provide that value to the business so that they can actually get on with the money making. Okay, our next area is get the facts. This is all about setting up our ITSM process with these kind of key bits of information around how we're going to track and categorize tickets. So let me throw this up here. These are some examples of these areas that you're going to want to consider, and you need to identify how you're going to track these different areas. This is going to be really, really important as you go forward for your data mining and trend analysis. Each of these 5 areas here, as I've got as examples, are going to be really, really important as part of that process where you can actually review the data you've got and then make decisions based upon that. So some examples up there of what you might want to do. Got classification or category, whatever we're going to call that. And that's about what type of ticket this is. A step, break down further from just incident or service request, but then what type of incident? What is the type of thing? What's the type of something's gone wrong? Or what's the type of I'm needing something that you're looking for here? It's not the what's gone wrong. We can deal with that somewhere else, but it's the kind of type of the category of something breaking. That's going to help you understand, what are the common things that are being requested, where your team have to spend their actual time on what types of issues. Source is going to be really great to understand how your organization would like to get in touch with you. We often assume everyone's going to want to use a self-service portal because we think it looks great and it's HTML5 and you can use it on any device, and it's got this cool little whizzy thing and it's got a dashboard and it's got a drill in and a pop out, and we think it's brilliant. But some end users, they don't like that. They just want to phone you up or you come to your desk even and talk to you. And it's important to understand that of what your users actually are doing, because that's going to be what they prefer doing. You can try and push people and coerce them in the way that you want them to use, but ultimately, if you provide them the ability to phone up or walk up or email, some people are always going to do that because that's the way they either do prefer or they think is best. And it's really important to understand that of where that's coming from if you want to try and drive changes there and make a difference. And then you know where to put more resources if you need them. If a lot of your data is coming in via phone, you may need to, put more people on the phones. If the business has identified that is the way they prefer to get in touch. So really important. That one's a really great one to actually cross-reference with demographics such as location or business area, types of job roles, because you can often see some key trends there as well. Impact, urgency, priority, all about prioritization of these work items, these tickets. A key thing to remember here is whatever you decide in terms of what values you're going to have, and if it's going to be a calculated thing through a matrix or standalone priority, the key thing here that often people make a mistake about is to make sure that your team understand what these terms mean and there's consistency across the board. Sometimes you pull out a report from an ITSM solution and every ticket is a P2, every single one. And it's because that's the default value and no one really understands what those things mean. No one's sure if they're allowed to change it or not, and they just ignore it. And then you've got no idea what's really going on. You've got no idea if you're actually delivering things on time or when people actually expect them and need them, because everything is being categorized as a priority 2. So it's really important that if you're going to have high, medium, low in your impact, do you actually have a definition of what that means so that people can actually pick the correct impact. For example, low impact would be it's just one person and they can't do one particular function. Medium impact could be one person cannot operate at all, or maybe it's a group of people that can't perform one particular function. And a high impact is, an entire group of people that can't do anything, do any work. That's the kind of thing you want to make sure that it's clearly defined so that everyone can understand and pick the correct impact based on what's going on in that particular case. If you don't define those things, low to me could mean high to somebody else. And obviously, if I ask the user, they're always going to say it's high priority, high urgency, high impact. So we've got to learn and train our teams to make those decisions themselves, and obviously not listen exactly to what the user says, because we know what users will always do. Something not on the screen here, but also important to remember is, again, your relationships of work items, tickets to configuration items. Really important part of ITSM process. So it's very important to have your ITSM solution and your CMDB in the same technology space, to making sure that you can get that data between the two to make those links. And again, also important to make sure your team understands the importance of that, and knows how to do that and what's required on that process. We talked about how the classification shouldn't be what's gone wrong exactly. It should just be the type of failure that we've got. The way we can track what's actually gone wrong is going to be through those configuration items, making sure people are actually relating the service that's been affected or the actual individual configuration items, so we can, again, through reporting and trend analysis, identify what's going on, and that allows us to be proactive and actually fix things better. We could have 30 incidents that says that a printer's jammed. We've got no idea if it's 30 different printers or the same printer 30 times. And obviously what we're going to do about that is going to be very different depending on which scenario. If we've got the same printer jamming 30 times in a month, we need to get that replaced or properly repaired, get the engineer out to fix it. So we need to identify what actually is going wrong, and the way to achieve that well is through relating configuration items. All of this is ultimately about proving the value to the business, and then being proactive about that. If your management comes to you and says, what's going wrong the most, you want to be able to tell them exactly, it's this machine, it's this business service, it's this type of failure. It's always the network failures that are actually causing these issues, regardless of whether it's different systems, different pieces of hardware. And that helps you to kind of drive those business decisions, and that's going to help you as an IT organization show your values to the business. Okay, and we're on to our last one, which is don't dream it's over. This is, once you're up and running with your ITSM processes and your technology, and you're there, you can't afford to sit back and relax. One of the key things in the ITIL framework is that idea of the continual service improvement. We were going around that circle again and again and again. I like to think of it as well as, rather than just a circle going around and around, think of it like a spiral. So as you go around, you're kind of slowly climbing up and up and up, improving and improving over and over. But we've got to constantly reevaluate all of our process, everything we're doing, and make sure that it's still right for the business. Again, not living in just a little IT bubble, but working with the organization, understanding their needs as they changed. The needs of the business today won't be the same forever. Things move on. Making sure that the services that we are offering are still providing value. If they're not, we need to retire them and stop throwing resources into them. New technology is always on the horizon. There's always something new to be looking into, and we've got to make sure we're finding that balance of spending time investigating that and staying on top of that and not getting left behind, but also not spending all of our resources and all of our finances on new technology that won't bring any value, or at least not bring any return, on that investment. So we've got to make sure we're finding that balance as well the whole time. So we can't sit still. It's never we'll never complete the task. It's going to be an ongoing process. All right. Well, that's it for my 7 common mistakes. I hope you found that useful. I hope there's things there that all of us can apply to our own processes, our own practices. We've not looked particularly at any SaaS and technology in this webinar today, but most people on this call will be aware that obviously we provide services and solutions around ITSM for Service Manager. So if you're needing any help with ITSM processes or you're looking for technology, then do reach out. You can email team@saracen.com or look on our website. And we do provide 30-day free trial of any of our solutions if you're interested in having a look at those.
Hi, Jeff, it's Emma. We have a question from Stephanie. Sorry, Stefan.
Okay, I'm just going to pull that up. All right. Oh, hi, Stefan. How you doing? Can you comment on best practices for the service desk to work and exchange tickets with external suppliers' service desks? Yeah, great question, and this is actually quite often a challenge to get right. We talked about how you can have all those efficiencies by bringing different departments within one organization into one technology, which is great. But obviously, we're going to be dealing with not just our own internal departments, but other external suppliers and vendors. And really, it's going to be a case of not one size fits all. So Stefan, as I mentioned, the WAN provider, a key partner, someone you're going to be working with an awful lot. Is there potential value in some sort of link between the two? Some technology that can actually tie those two things together through APIs and web calls. There's going to be a big investment there, but if there's value to be had, then that's obviously one way of dealing with it. Otherwise, we're going to have to deal with them as 2 separate systems, and a lot of the communication may be via email or phone calls, and making sure that we're both updating those systems independently. The key thing to remember, I guess, is that you are providing your service to the business, and as far as the business is concerned, you at the IT department are providing that service. They're not interested in your vendor behind you, your service provider behind you. Even when they've let you down, they're not interested in that. They want to know that you can deliver this service and make sure you get it. So we've got to make sure with that, when we're building our services out, that we're allowing these external suppliers and vendors. We're going to make sure that the expectations of the business allow for that, and there may be delay, there may be problems that are outside the control of IT, and just make sure we're setting those expectations, not hiding behind the vendor and shifting the blame, but just being absolutely transparent on what's going on there. So yeah, and just to wrap up, if you can integrate and build something, that's going to be great and bring you a lot of value and save you a lot of manual work, but there's a big investment there. So maybe with your WAN provider, you would think about doing that because you're constantly going to be back and forth with them every day. Smaller providers, you wouldn't consider that because it's just not going to get the return on that investment. So hopefully that answered that question. This is the end. This is the last slide. So this is the perfect time to ask any other questions. We've finished a little bit ahead of schedule, which means we've got plenty of time if you do have any questions. So I'll just see if there's any more. All right, what we'll do then is we'll kind of formally close, but then we'll just hang out for a few more minutes in case someone is still typing something up. Just say if you think of a question later or you want to get in touch, please do reach out. team@saracen.com is the kind of easiest one to remember, or we'll have our, when you view the recording of this webinar, our individual addresses for me and Emma were on the title slide, so you can pull them from there. Please do reach out and get in touch. But yeah, I'd like to say thank you very much for attending, for giving us your time. I really hope that there was something here of interest to you, and hope to hear from you all soon.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, so we're just going to hang out here for a few more minutes in case there's any more questions.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. I think we're done.